In Dragon Ball Super, audiences were introduced to a plethora of powerful new fighters who made everyone from Dragon Ball Z look weak by comparison. This took fights to an entirely new level, as they began to threaten the multiverse itself. Most of these characters have been given their due credit by fans, but some of them have continued to be underrated and downplayed by audiences. So who are the most downplayed fighters in Dragon Ball Super? Well, in this video, I'm going to discuss that. Make sure to subscribe to this channel and enable notifications so you can see all of my content right away when it comes out. So the first fighter I'm going to be talking about in this video would have to be Tien, and I don't really blame a lot of people for downplaying him considering the treatment that he's gotten in Dragon Ball Super. Tien went from this badass prodigy that he was introduced as in the 22nd tournament of Dragon Ball to an occasional ace in the hole who helped out the strongest fighters when the opportunity called for it, such as when he held off Semi-Perfect Cell in the Cell Saga or deflected an attack from Super Buu. But come Dragon Ball Super, he barely did anything other than getting beaten up and taking out some Frieza Force fighters. And then in the Tournament of Power, he was pretty much the only fighter who didn't get any shine. He got a little bit of character development by opening up his own dojo, but then he was made to look like a weakling when he got beaten by Roshi in front of his students. Master Roshi, who was a character that he beat all the way back in the 22nd tournament 2 series before, which goes to show you just how much his prominence has fallen. However, when we actually think about his power come Dragon Ball Super, it's no doubt greater than it ever was in the past, considering that Tien trains pretty much non-stop. So at this point in the series, even though he's getting beaten by characters who seem weak to us, Tien could probably take out Final Form Frieza and Namek, the androids, and maybe even some forms of Cell. I don't know if I would say Perfect Cell or anyone stronger, but hey, it's Dragon Ball Super, so maybe Tien's Tri-Beam would just squash him like a bug. So let's now get into another human character who was introduced even earlier than Tien in the first arc of Dragon Ball, and who throughout much of Dragon Ball Super was kind of downplayed, with that being Master Roshi the Turtle Hermit. Now it's pretty obvious that Master Roshi got some kind of giant off-screen boosts at different points throughout Dragon Ball Super, because his first real involvement in the action came during Resurrection F, when he was facing off against Frieza Force soldiers. Now back on Namek, the Frieza Force soldiers were basically laughing at Raditz's level of power, and the strongest among them had power levels in the tens of thousands. Yet somehow Master Roshi, whose last known power level was somewhere in the hundreds, and stood no chance against Raditz, was capable of fighting off a bunch of them at the same time. However, Roshi's biggest boost would come by the Tournament of Power, when people started to pay a lot more attention to how ridiculous the scaling around him has been. First when he was being controlled by Tien's new girlfriend Yurin, what an unfortunate name, and was able to not only beat Tien, but was able to fight against base Goku and make his fists tingle. And despite the fact that Goku was able to win when he used the Kamehameha, this is still a Goku who's more powerful in his base form than every character in Dragon Ball Z. However, it would only continue to escalate from there, as in the tournament itself, Roshi used the Mafuba over and over again, despite the fact that it killed him the last time he used it, and his opponent wasn't anywhere near as many times stronger than him as those he was using it on here. And then when he faced off against Frost, even though Roshi was already so tired and pretty much on the verge of death, he was still able to catch Frost off guard, land a hit on him, and push him back. And considering just how powerful Frost really is, which I'll be talking about soon, that shows you just how powerful Roshi actually is in Super. And then if we take a look at the Dragon Ball Super manga, where Roshi was on the verge of using Ultra Instinct and was actually catching Jiren off guard in their fight, that shows you just how absurd the power scaling is surrounding this character. And even now, many people try to downplay these feats because they want Dragon Ball Super scaling to make sense in their heads, but I think it's pretty clear looking at these examples and many other ones that that's not really a high priority for the writers right now. I mean, even Krillin was shown pushing Goku to use Super Saiyan during their fight, and having a key clash with Goku as a Super Saiyan Blue. So it's not just exclusive to Roshi. I wouldn't even be surprised at this point in Dragon Ball Super if they reveal that Yamcha would be able to beat Frieza and Namek. All it would really require is a little bit of off-screen training. Getting into another fighter who was introduced in Dragon Ball, that would have to be Piccolo. And again, because of Piccolo's writing in Dragon Ball Super, it's made it easy for people to downplay him. After all, in the Battle of Gods movie, Piccolo was easily beaten by Beerus when he was using chopsticks, which might be Quaman's least favorite moment in modern Dragon Ball, and something I always love to remind him of. In the Dragon Ball Super version of it, Beerus basically just powered up and instantly took him out. Then in Resurrection F, Piccolo also got beaten down by Sashimi, or Tagoma in the Dragon Ball Super version, both of whom were just Frieza soldiers who never should have been as powerful as Piccolo come that movie. However, by the time of Universe 6 is when Piccolo was really able to show off some of his big gains in the series, when he went toe-to-toe with Frost during their fight. Now, of course, in the anime version, Frost was saying that he was so tired he barely had any power left. But I feel like that was probably part of a ruse he was using to try and keep Piccolo off guard, considering that the anime version of Frost is a liar and a cheater, and Piccolo would have actually beaten him if he didn't use that needle and poison him. Although it does seem weird that that poison would affect someone with Piccolo's biology, but I guess that's just a story for another day. But I think that Piccolo's showing against Frost, who is stronger than base Goku, shows a significant leap from Dragon Ball Z level of powers to where he is in Dragon Ball Super. And then come the Tournament of Power, we saw him fighting against Gohan, and was actually able to defeat Gohan in his Super Saiyan 2 form, with Gohan's Super Saiyan 2 being far more powerful than it was in Dragon Ball Z at this point. And then when he was teaming with Gohan in the Tournament of Power, he was able to defeat the two Namekians from Universe 6 who had actually fused with the majority of their own race. And considering just how hard they pushed Gohan during their fight, these guys were really powerful. But Piccolo would go on to be eliminated from the tournament in a way that was kind of disrespectful to the character, considering the fact that not only was he defeated by a bug, but it was a bug that other characters were able to beat because they could hear it. Which means that the writers literally ignored the fact that Piccolo has super hearing just for his comical elimination. But nonetheless, if we look at Piccolo's level of power now in Dragon Ball Super, he'd likely be able to beat everyone in Dragon Ball Z, including characters like Super Buu, Super Saiyan 3 Goku, and even Ultimate Gohan. I mean, he could basically beat him in Dragon Ball Super when he's off guard, so there's certainly that for you. But moving into characters who were introduced in Dragon Ball Super, another duo of characters who were incredibly downplayed and still continue to be to this day are Kael and Caulifla. And I've heard so many arguments about these characters being weaker than they are ever since they were introduced, with people saying that they're actually only like Super Saiyan Goku and Vegeta, or maybe Super Saiyan 2 level from the Cell Saga or the early Buu Saga, and the only reason they really put up a strong fight against Goku is because he was really tired, but this couldn't be further from the truth. As we saw during the Universe 6 tournament, base Kaba and base Vegeta were equal in power. And base Vegeta was shown being able to one-shot Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks in the Potafu arc, and base Caulifla was implied to be even more powerful than base Kaba. So naturally, when she's a Super Saiyan, she'd be far more powerful than pretty much everyone in Dragon Ball Z, especially when she goes Super Saiyan 2, and the same thing could be said for Kael, who was not only tanking Super Saiyan Blue Goku's attacks at one point, but was getting the better of him as a Super Saiyan 2. And again, this is Goku after he absorbed the power of Super Saiyan God. So these characters are obviously really OP. And again, if we look at the manga version, just Kael on her own, when she was enraged, was able to beat Annie Raza. So I think it's pretty clear that they're nowhere near as weak as people make them out to be, and I think it's time for people to stop downplaying them, because they're going to be really shocked if they show up in the next series and surpass the main characters. And the next character is another one I've talked about many times in individual videos, and that is Gohan, the son of Goku, who's been continually downplayed throughout all of Dragon Ball Super, even by the writers themselves. First, when he shows up in Battle of Gods, he's made to seem weaker than Goku and Vegeta, even though he was way more powerful than them at the end of the Buu Saga, which wasn't really even that long before Battle of Gods, and certainly a shorter time skip than between the Cell Saga and the Buu Saga. And then Resurrection F, which was only about a year later, he couldn't even go Ultimate anymore, and was struggling to become a Super Saiyan. But even then, Gohan's power was still greater than it was in the Cell Saga when he was a Super Saiyan 2, and then after Resurrection F, Gohan went on to train with Piccolo again. But people basically downplayed this or claimed that it was filler. The same with his other moments of training at other points during the series, such as the Goku Black arc. And then we have a fight between Goku and Gohan, with them both being transformed into the same forms, and Gohan kind of getting the better of Goku in that exchange, and people boil that down to, well, Goku wasn't trying. Even when Gohan says that he's stronger than ever at the beginning of the Zen exhibition match, people would still say that he's weaker than he was in the Buu Saga. And then after Gohan achieved his ultimate form once again, it became far more powerful than ever before, and then took that power to an even higher level by training with Piccolo after that, we would see the biggest downplay of Gohan that we've seen in the series so far, as Gohan pushes Goku to use his Super Saiyan Blue form, and then swaps blows with him, and then he quickly goes to use his Kaioken on top of that, and people still claim that Goku only did it because Gohan told him to. Even when Gohan throws another punch when he's basically on the verge of falling unconscious, and Goku says he wants to go to new heights with Gohan together, and then even when the narrator in the next episode says that Gohan's power rivaled Goku's, and that the strong Gohan is returned, people still said that Gohan wasn't even Super Saiyan 3 level, and Goku was just doing it because he cared about his son, and he wanted to show him his true power. There's just so much downplaying this character at this point, with a lot of it not coming because of anything we see in the show, but just because people don't like Gohan anymore, and they're letting their biases get in the way of actual evidence. And I don't even know if there's anything they can do in Dragon Ball Super when it returns to change this perspective on the character, especially after the Broly movie when he didn't even show up. So finally, that leads into the most downplayed character in Dragon Ball Super. And I know that a lot of people must be wondering, well, what character could it be? Well, for me, it would have to be Frost, the Frieza doppelganger from Universe 6. Because time and time again, when Frost is shown in the series, people have downplayed this character so much that it's really comical at this point. When Frost showed up in the Tournament of Destroyers, for example, the Universe 6 arc, so many people were saying that they thought that Frost was Frieza on Namek levels, okay? Just because he looked like Frieza on Namek, and they know that Frieza was a certain power level on Namek, they said, oh wow, well Frost must just be Frieza on Namek level. That's why Goku can beat him as a Super Saiyan. And that shows such a fundamental misunderstanding of power scaling at this point in the series that I don't even know how someone who's really seen the series and read the manga would ever make that assessment. Goku's base form after Battle of Gods, when he absorbed the power of Super Saiyan God, and then his training with Vegeta in Resurrection F, is more powerful than every character in Dragon Ball Z, and possibly around the level of Super Saiyan God from Battle of Gods, with Vegeta also being that level. And there's no Saiyan Beyond God thing in Dragon Ball Super. Goku and Vegeta don't have a second base form that uses God Ki, so we can't use that as an excuse for how Frost performed against Goku, because it's pretty clear that Frost in his Assault form, or his third form, was more powerful than base Goku, which is why Goku transformed. And sure, Final Form Frost wasn't as powerful as Super Saiyan Goku, but he's clearly more powerful than base Goku, and somewhere in between that 50 times multiplier Goku would have gotten from the form. And even after being pummeled by Goku, and being further weakened during his fight against Piccolo, Vegeta still uses his Super Saiyan form during their fight in the anime and the manga. So it's pretty obvious that Frost is more powerful than every character in Dragon Ball Z, and maybe even Super Saiyan God from Battle of Gods, if we're saying that Goku's base was equivalent to that. And then Frost gets even more powerful after this, which is confirmed by Hit during their little skirmish, and then just because Frieza shows him a form, he's basically instantly able to recreate the same form that Frieza did, and yet people still downplay this character and his potential. And honestly, when you really look at it, considering that Frost never trained anywhere near the degree as Frieza, we just heard that he fought people on other planets, which for him really shouldn't be any sweat at all, it's possible that Frost has even greater potential than Frieza himself. If he trained just as hard as Frieza did, then he'd be able to have a form just like Golden and be able to easily defeat him. But for me, Frost may very well be the most downplayed character in Dragon Ball Super, with the only other one possibly being Chaozu. Because after all, let's think about it, Chaozu is able to hold back base Goku, so clearly that means Chaozu is Super Saiyan God level. Confirmed! Okay guys, so these have been my picks for some of the most downplayed characters in Dragon Ball Super. Let me know your own picks down below. And if you disagree with me on any of my assessments, explain why in the comments. And remember, discussions like these are supposed to be for fun, so let's just try and keep the conversation respectful. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, as well as enabling notifications, so that you can see all of my videos right away when they come out. And make sure to stick around, because there's a lot more to come in the future.
Yeah, and you better subscribe.